When building mobile apps with Jetpack Compose, it's common to use one UI state model per screen. This usually involves exposing a stateflow object which represents the screen state as a Kotlin data class. The stateflow is then consumed by the top-level composable representing our screen and passed down the composable hierarchy tree. Simple enough, right? But here's the thing. Creating these UI state models is roughly as straightforward as just storing an input value. Let's take a basic example, like creating a new to-do item. Tutorials often keep it simple, but real-world applications are much more complex. In most cases, we don't want to expose multiple state objects. Why? Because it's overhead. The UI has to collect and evaluate multiple flows instead of relying on a single source of truth. To address this, we typically merge multiple streams represented as Kotlin Flow objects into a unified UI state object. The single object then becomes the source of truth for the UI. For merging flows, the combine function in Kotlin is often the go-to solution. It's elegant, it lets you combine multiple flows into one, creating a new flow of all our sources. Sounds like a robust pattern, right? And for the most part, it is. But recently, I ran into a scenario that revealed a major pitfall. My screen simply wouldn't update. After a lot of head scratching and probably too much time troubleshooting, I discovered the root cause, and I want to save you from falling into the same trap by providing a simple solution to overcome this problem. To showcase this problem, I prepared a simple example app, which is a candy app, so you can list your candies whatsoever. And let's start the app right now. And you can see a loading spinner appears because we are currently loading our candies, and afterward we have no candies available yet, so the screen updates accordingly. And how is that done? Inside this view model here. So we have one flow that observes here candies from a repository, wherever those candies come from. And then I have here my Kotlin combine operator, which combines the flow with a mutable state flow here, and finally exposes an immutable state flow of my candy state, which is in my case the UI state, which should be consumed from the UI. And as you can see, I have here a mock function to refresh the candies. So I just update the mutable state flow here, set it into the loading state, then an artificial delay of 2 seconds, and afterward I once again update the state and set it to false. That also worked really well, but now comes what cost me countless of hours. What happens if we introduce a second flow, and let's say it's just of string, and in this case we just say empty flow. Let's quickly merge that into this flow combine here. And let's see what happens if we restart the app. Oh, okay. And as we see, the loading spinner stays on the screen. I didn't change anything besides adding a second flow. So why is that? It is because the combine operator only goes into this transformation function if all the sources put into the combine emit at least one value, and that is not the case with the empty flow. So this is of course a very simple example, but imagine you are consuming a third-party library, for example, in which you can't mutate any code, and that flow you receive from that library contains no values. This is not only a problem when you're consuming third-party libraries, but maybe you also are providing your own flows, and somehow no value emits. And in these cases, our combine wouldn't update, so your UI state would always stay in its initial state. But no worries, in that case there is a solution. And the solution is as easy as providing a default value for all your flows. So it's not always necessary, but if you run into problems, you now know where you might need to search for. And if you discover a flow where in initial empty state or whatever, you want to have a default value, which might be, I don't know, anything, you can do the following. Just go to your flow and call on start. And here you can now just emit a default value. For example, for my list of candies, I emit an empty list. And for my second flow, I can also say emit, and now I just use an empty string. So by this on start, we say, when we start collecting this flow, please emit this value as a default parameter. And now we can rerun our app and let's see what happens. And as we can see, the loading spinner starts, and once again, we go back to our updated UI state. And by that simple trick, I hope I could save you some hours of debugging if you also run into a similar problem. And if you want to learn more about mobile app development in general, Android development, Kotlin multi-platform development, Compose multi-platform development, please subscribe to my channel, activate the notification bell, and I hope to see you soon.